Okay, I think it's a good time to get started. So, hi everyone and welcome. Thanks for joining us today for our live webinar, Meet the New Bob, live AI demo for construction teams. I'm Len, marketing team at Kwant, and I'm here to get us started. Today, we're going to talk about the transition to Kwant 2.0, and most importantly, show you how Bob has grown from a simple query tool into a true AI copilot. Bob version 2 is designed to help you boost productivity, enhance safety, and simplify compliance, so you can spend less time chasing data and more time driving results. And just a quick note, if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to drop them into the chat. We'll make sure to answer them during the QA at the end. So I'm excited to introduce John Kulajian, our VP of Customer Success and Experience here at Kwant. John sits right where our hats meet datasets, and he's a civil engineer who's worked on some of the world's most iconic projects, like World Trade Center, the George Washington Bridge, and the NYC airports. And today, he's today to show us what the new Bob can do. Please join me in welcoming John as he showcases our recent developments in our platform.
Thank you, Belen. Appreciate that. And thank you everyone who called in and took the time to join us. We're excited to showcase our recent updates to our AI agent, Bob, and an exclusive preview of the roadmap ahead. As many of you may know, Kwant is partnered with some of the largest contractors and owners in the industry, from manufacturing to data centers to even oil and gas. The breadth of our application is extremely wide, and we're always looking to partner with more companies and more organizations. Our AI roadmap and even Bob are still in very early stages of development, so we'd love to work closely with you as we continue to update and improve our product. So if you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out to us if there's a specific problem we could tackle with our products. We'd love to look into it and work closely with you. Just to touch on some ROI metrics, a big picture, even in its early stages, like right now, Bob's going to save you more and more of your most valuable resource, and that's time. I mean, the leap from Bob V1 to Bob V2 was tremendous, and it's only going to keep getting better. So we're really excited with what we've already seen as far as an ROI with some of the reports that it's running. But let's start to jump right into what's new. So where we're at, Bob is and was built on the foundation of our customer feedback and needs. We want to work closely with you to gather feedback to ensure that it offers everything that you need. So, and I guess on that note, we comply with all AI privacy guidelines. Your data is not used to train our models, and it stays within your project, even if your company has multiple projects with us, like some of our customers do. All of that data stays with those projects, unless you want us to use it to train our agents. It's perfectly fine. But yeah, we comply with all the privacy guidelines there. But let's jump into some of the differences between Bob V1 and Bob V2. I know a lot of us were using Bob V1, but for those who are unfamiliar, this leap to V2 allows us now to read and pull data from structured and unstructured data sets, which is big because, as you know, Kwant will pull data from the field, and that's a structured data set, a good example of a structured data set. But there's also data sets that are incorporated and that are uploaded on your project that are unstructured. So the analyses that we're going to be running in the demos can pull from both sets, which is huge for construction because I think up to like 90% of construction data is unstructured. So that's a big improvement. Another big improvement in this version of Bob is that it now offers insights and recommendations. So instead of just data, Bob can give recommendations, it can give narratives, it can give trend lines, it can give comparisons, it can even show outliers, which is a really big help with some of the items that we've seen in our product, whether you want to see if a worker is working a certain amount of hours or if a company has way more hours or way less hours than they're supposed to. Bob can call that out. Another really exciting update is that Bob can provide visual outputs, which you'll see in the demo when we go right into the platform. We're going to show you some of the reports that Bob's able to run, and the output of visual optics is amazing. Like if you're like me, who is a visual learner, to see these graphs that it generates all on its own based on reasoning for the prompt that you give it, and it generates the graphs that it thinks will best depict what you're looking for, is truly amazing. It's not something you have to request from it. Bob will do it on its own and try to best guess. You could request a specific graph if you'd like, but in these reports, I'll show you a good example of what it does on its own without me even asking. And last but not least, it was built for the field. Bob speaks construction. I know construction as an industry is very unique. Bob was trained on workforce behavior, compliance norms, product timelines. I mean, you name it, like job site lingo, all the good and the bad, you know. But at the end of the day, you're capturing a lot of value and valuable data from our product in the field. And we want to make sure that you get the best and maximum amount of value from it. And that's why we built Bob. And that's what I want to help you guys try to use it as a tool to get that value. Just a breakdown, I think this would help as understand like what kind of data that we're pulling from when I said structured and unstructured. Just as a note, Bob is non-deterministic in his responses. And this basically means that the responses will change depending on what data your project has available. And the data your project has available is broken out into three main sets. You have the structured data that you're retrieving from Kwant sensors on site. And that's our own sensors, our own data that gets put back into our platform that you can see and break down and manipulate however you want. But you also have third-party integrations, which will integrate with Kwant, and we will still retrieve and show portray on our platform, like such as Primavera P6 schedules. You have maybe other access control companies that we can integrate with. So that type of data, even like something exciting like safety reports that you'll be able to upload eventually. That's an unstructured data that you'd be able to integrate with Kwant. But then you also have external data like weather, for example, in the area that you can pull from really anywhere. And all of that is taken, crunched in, by Bob. It's analyzed, and that's what's used to generate the feedback and the responses that you're going to get and that we're going to get when we go through the demo. And all of their responses are going to be based around the four core elements of what Kwant is, and that's compliance, safety, productivity, and the data-driven underwriting as well. So what this opens the door to is, and we'll get into like the first two items like document review and schedule analysis. It opens the door to like basically unrestricted report generating and insights based on the data that you're capturing. So you'll eventually be able to use Bob to generate custom reports based off your organizational standards and then schedule them to go out at specific times or even triggers. So say you want a report or you want a notification that goes out if the amount of workers on site drops by a certain percentage. That's where we're heading towards. And that's the kind of reports and that's the kind of alerts you're going to be able to set up using Bob just through a prompt. And you can choose the individuals that you want to send it to. These are the types of problems and the type of tool we're looking to build with Bob, because these are the types of things that help you make better decisions and help you react quicker to things on site that you might not be able to get access to right away. But just to dive into some really cool upcoming features and exclusive sneak peek at some stuff that we're working on right now. Something we're really excited about is we're looking to work with a few more customers on is the AI safety documentation analysis and organization. So Bob now has the ability to read handwritten notes out in the field, whether it be pre-task plans, JHAs, which I hope aren't handwritten, and it can organize that data based on the company that's uploading it, and then it allows you to have them digitized. So if it's handwritten, it'll digitize the handwriting and it'll analyze it, and then it'll store it for future reference seamlessly. And then Bob can also pull from that data when you're prompting it to use in its responses moving forward. But it also gives you a good idea of which companies are submitting their proper documentation. Just like you have worker documentation already in your platform on your projects, you have workers that can upload documentation and you can check for expiry there. Next, quickly, we'll go through the AI-powered workforce modeling, which is another feature that we've actually already started to work with customers on. We're doing it manually right now in the background just to make sure we can tweak it and make it exactly what the customer is looking for. But eventually, as we keep moving forward with these updates and on our roadmap, you'll be able to do these workforce models yourself. And you're going to upload the data that you need, and Bob will basically prompt you for other items or just other information that you might need to supply, and it'll mold your workforce model for you, and it can use historical data on the project as the project keeps going to fine tune it and then give you like valuable insights as far as forecasting ahead if you're going to be able to meet the demand or if you might be below or above it based on project status as well. So I wanted to breeze through that because I want to leave as much possible time for the demo as possible. Next steps, after this demo, please contact your dedicated CSM for personalized and in-depth trainings, whatever it may be, whether it's Bob or anything else. We'd be more than happy to work with you. And we can go as deep as you want and spend as much time on an item as you want to make sure you're getting the max value. Provide us feedback. There's a link to a form that you can use. You could also just email us any channel that you'd like, whatever is the most convenient for you. We love your feedback, and it helps us tailor our product more towards what you need it for. Partner with us. Like I said earlier, we're always looking for partners to tackle very specific problems, dive deeper into specific problems, something that isn't as simple as, getting feedback and making a slight tweak. If you have something that you really wanted to apply our product to that needs some work, we'd be happy to look into it with you. And then last but not least, at the end of the webinar, we're going to just talk briefly about a Bob prompt competition. And we're going to ask you guys to basically go out on your own, use Bob as much as you possibly can, submit us something in return, and the winner is going to get a gift card, whoever that may be. So without further ado, I'm going to now share my screen for the Bob demo. So let's make sure that this works. Okay. And we can start with the live demo of the actual platform online. So, great. So I have Bob pulled up here. This is our demo environment. Our demo environment is not real product data. We're not showcasing anything that is actually happening. This is all made up. So you might see some names that are a little bit strange. You might see some company names. You're going to see a lot of Kwant. Kwant is one of the most active companies on this project. And for those of you who don't know, Bob is your dedicated AI assistant that lives in the bottom right-hand corner here. You can activate him by just clicking on this icon. And we're going to put him into full screen mode. And we're going to jump right into it. So you have your prompt here. I have everything pre-written out, so for ease of for typing and to save us some time. One of the most requested prompts and one of the most requested tools that we had from our customers is to just give a simple worker count, which is something that you can get from manually searching our site and something you can pull from the Insights tab itself. But we're going to go into how you can actually manipulate this and further break it down on its own. So you can see Bob is analyzing your data, and he's going to provide the accurate worker count for today in a table. So this is a good example of the update right here. We have a table that's provided directly in the chat prompt itself. So you don't have to always download the Excel file and then upload it and open it and everything. You can actually see the answer right in the chat prompt. Although Bob will stop at 20, just because some of these large projects might have hundreds of subs and hundreds of workers for each sub, and we don't want you to have thousands and thousands of lines to have Bob run through. Bob will get tired. But you can download the entirety of this data here like you would for anything else. But now let's see, this is a head count, but let's pretend like you need the total hours, because the report that you're writing doesn't require head counts. It also requires total hours for every company, because that's how you might break down your data. So instead, I'm going to say, hey, Bob, can you provide a list of companies on site today and the corresponding total hours instead? So he's going to give me that same list of companies, and he's going to give me the total hours that have been captured for all the companies on site today. And it's a different breakdown. Instead of head count, it gives you total hours. So that's a good example of in-chat tables that can be generated. But for example, let's say I want to look into one company in particular, and I want it to be a timesheet. So if you remember earlier in our call, I was talking about the ability for Bob to generate timesheets and be a real time saver in that sense, because you could ask for a specific company, and you could also ask for a specific worker, and the duration can be for the entire length of the contract. So what Bob is doing right now is only for last week, and I asked him specifically, you can see, to include check-in and check-out times for last week. But during audit or during during the course of the project, you might have a specific worker that you want to check and audit their time for the entire length of the project. And going through all this individual timesheets is going to take forever. And instead, you can just go straight to Bob and ask Bob to generate that exact same report. And you can see it only generates the first 20 lines as we discussed. This one is broken down by date. So you can see the date first, and then it has the same worker on multiple days. You can see our CEO here is the 18th and then the 19th. I could ask Bob to recreate this and restructure it to be broken down by worker. But regardless, you just created within a few seconds the breakdown of workers and the timesheet for this one company for all workers for last week. So I think that application in and of itself has a massive value that's added to it. And I'm not going to download these right now, but I do have reports that I am going to download because we're going to jump straight into generating daily reports and then breakdowns. So if you notice on our home screen of Bob, there are some pre-made and pre-written out prompts like generate a daily report or generate a productivity report. Without even getting too specific, Bob will do its best to look into your data and then come up with what it thinks is the best representation of a daily report based on the data that you have, and then put it into a Word document. And I've already pre-run these reports for the sake of time because Bob's going to have to analyze, visualize, create the data, and it's going to reason, it's going to look into the data and see like what analytics it can come up with. So I'll pull up a report that I ran just a few hours ago earlier today, and you can see what Bob's capabilities are. So here is what I asked for. It's a daily report that also includes total hours by company, weather impacts, and check-in and check-out time. Those are the items that I wanted to see in this report. You could ask for anything that you might need. But you can see right off the bat, labor hours by company, it comes up with this awesome graph and breaks down the companies by total hours worked. So you can see King Mechanical Corp worked a little bit more than Kwant for this for yesterday, which is what I asked for, but we'll look into historical data soon. So it's a great bar chart right off the bat. You can see it came up with a weather report saying that, weather was clear skies, so there shouldn't be any impacts or delays. And it gave us a cool chart. All of the data for the weather is on one chart. So you have degrees Celsius, which if you're in America, you might want degrees Fahrenheit, which you could ask Bob to provide for you in future reports. And then you have wind speed in meters per second, which might not be as ideal. So you might want to ask Bob to put that in miles per hour. It's all things that you can prompt in the future. You have a workforce timing analysis here. So for check-in, you have the average check-in time of 7:40, the average checkout time for 5:26, and the average hours on site of 9 hours and 45 minutes. So there are no anomalies during the shift were observed. So it's pretty clean data set that Bob is pulling from for this analysis. And you can see that you'll also get your, this is a funny graph of average check-in, average checkout. It tried to create a graph even for check-in and checkout. So he's going to do his best to create your graphics. And then you'll get a tabular breakdown of everything that I just talked about. Yeah, weather impacts, average check-in, checkout, and conclusions and recommendations for the data that it pulled in this report. So now let's run a productivity report, but let's do it for the last 7 days and look at some of the charts and visualizations that it might provide for the last 7 days, not just for one day. And all I asked it to do was very vague. I said, generate a productivity report for the last 7 days. And Bob is going to, again, do its best to come up with what he thinks I'm looking for based off the data that we have and come up with insights that could be very valuable based off the data and the insights I have. So let's let Bob do his thinking again for this one. And in the meantime, I can pull up the report that he would yield. And you can see him in the background still, I guess, creating his visualizations. So a 7-day productivity report. So here you can see an awesome graph where he breaks down a line chart of the hours worked per day total cumulative for the entire project. So you can see the 24th and the 23rd were, they were weekends. So obviously you're going to have a slope that goes down, much lower work over the weekends, and then an immediate spike back up on Monday. So this graph can be run for 7 days. You can have him run just this graph if you wanted to, for 30 days, for 90 days, for the entire project duration, which you already have one of your tabs in Kwant for. You can compare total hours worked by company. You can see Kwant actually has more hours worked over the last 7 days than King Mechanical now. You can compare hours by trade. So Bob thought this was a good insight that you can see there's hours by trade broken down. And something that I noticed on this graph, actually for our demo environment, is that we have laborers and we have labor, and I would have to assume that those are the same trade, which means I should probably go in and do a bulk adjustment of worker trades on our end, just so that you can quickly get everyone under the same and consolidate all the trades under the same title so that we can make this data a little bit more accurate. That's a very simple tweak that we can go over on a personal call if you'd like on the side. Bob also broke this down by zone. And then again, like before, a table that corresponds with all the data that was provided, only up to 20 rows, because you don't want to get flooded with thousands and thousands and thousands of rows. If you have a massive project, you can ask for that on the side if you want from Bob specifically. So the last thing I wanted to show you in Bob would be some tools. And these are all things to kind of get your brain, the gears in your brain going for how you can utilize this as a tool. And I think a really good tool for safety managers would be to prompt Bob to help gauge your daily inspections, or if you're going out on site and you want to know what you want to focus on, Bob could be a really good tool before you go out to prompt it and help you look into things a little bit further when you're out on site. And the first example I'm going to give is providing a list of 3 companies who've had the most workers onboarded over the last 14 days. And the reason why I'm asking for that is because maybe a few companies have had a tremendous amount of workers onboarded the last 14 days. And you might want to look into them specifically because you want to make sure that the workers are complying with the onboarding that you gave them, with the training that you gave them, and they're not just going out and doing whatever they want the second they start. So as you can see, Bob came up with this really quick. There's 3 companies here, and their corresponding onboarded workers over the last 14 days. But now let's go into a little bit further. If you wanted to understand if people are in compliance or not, you can ask to provide a list of workers who have expired documents and have been seen on site in the last 2 weeks. Same thing, 14 days, but you want to understand if there are workers that have been seen on site, not just everyone in general, if they have been on site. So you want to make sure maybe the same workers that were onboarded are missing documentation. But you can see that it's not the case. It gives you only a list of 4 here. So Bob is saying that maybe you should reach out to Kwant because they have 2 individuals. That's a couple individuals. You can say, hey, you need to really crack down and make sure your workers are submitting the documentation that they're supposed to be. So these are just a few examples. I didn't go into too much depth on these prompts. Bob is conversational. So you could say, run this again and give me something new. I want you to, really play around with the agent as much as possible to see how you can utilize it. If you can break it, if you do break it, please let us know, what's wrong and how you can, what you'd be looking for as a response. We would really love to keep updating this and improving it. It's still in its early days. So we are still working to make it better with its responses. But for the general items that I provided here, you'll see that it does give very accurate responses in very short amounts of time. And please, for whatever reason, reach out to us if you want for personalized training. So with that, we can go into the competition that we will be offering for Bob, for those who are interested, and we'll provide details after this training seminar. Obviously, those of you that join this call will have a leg up because now you've been given the lay of the land for how to utilize Bob the best. Our competition will be very straightforward. We're going to look for you to provide us with the prompt that you use, the resulting output, and then the resulting application that you used it for on your project and why it was helpful. And you'll submit that in a link that we'll provide you in the resulting or the following email. You can provide that to us and we'll be evaluating everything, and the winner will receive a $100 gift card sent to them and maybe some merch as well. So please keep an eye out for that competition. We're really excited to see how you guys are using Bob. And as always, any feedback, like I said, please send it our way. So with that, I know we only have a couple minutes left. Belen, did you receive any questions in the chat? I think I saw some come through to me. I just wanted to see if you had any on your end. If you did, maybe you can read those off and we can start answering those questions before we adjourn.
Sure. I have 2 questions from Anthony. The first one is, AI is known not to be correct all the time, just like humans. but how accurate is it, and what hallucinations do we need to watch out for?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So our product team is actively looking and trying to find those hallucinations. And he's exactly right. Anthony's correct. You'll see it in ChatGPT, for example. If you go to ChatGPT right now, you'll see the very first thing at the bottom of the prompt is that ChatGPT gets things wrong. So we want you to utilize this version of Bob as a tool to break down the data that you have on your platform. We want you to be aware that if you do run more like specific and much more deeper prompts that are going to be like multi-level, those could be a lot more for Bob to handle, and he may start going off and hallucinating. If that is the case, and you'll see it in your report, generally, if it's a hard question, he won't respond with a table. He'll respond with a report, a Word document, and usually when that happens, he's giving you a detailed analysis because he just reasoned and started thinking about what you're looking for. So sometimes it's good to say, if you're looking for something simple, you can say something. You'll notice I put provide a list a bunch of times, provide a list, and that'll prompt Bob to immediately think to give you a breakdown in a list instead of diving deeply into one company and providing you this crazy Word document report with like graphs and charts and the weather when all you needed was who was on site. Thank you for asking that, Anthony.
He has more questions. He asks, it stops at 20, but does the download have the total list?
Absolutely, yes. The download will have everything in it, and I can download this and show you.
Also, another question before we finalize this.
Yeah.
Is there any to get links back to the sources to check the output, or way to double check the calculations?
There's no direct link back to the source of the data. However, Bob can only pull data from your project. So Bob is not going out and pulling data from anything in terms of time, like for worker data. So these names, the check-in time, the checkout time, the work date, all of that data that is structured is only being pulled from your project. Only external data that's being pulled right now is for the weather or any links integrations you may have, which would be minimal at this time until you start uploading documents. So at this time, no, you don't have a way to click on a user. You could easily double check by going back to the insights where all your data lives and selecting the worker breakdown and looking for specific time or specific days if you did question something. But in short, it's a good way to find if there are anomalies or outliers. Bob would find it first, and that might prompt you to go look into it a little bit deeper and check to see that his check-in and checkout times are accurate.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for answering our questions. And I think for now we can wrap up, unless you have another question.
I had one that came through just to me. It didn't go to both of us, I saw. So I'll just read this one off. It says, would a company manager have access to Bob, and would Bob pull data from project-wide data to respond? So that's about user permission. That's a good question because as you may or may not know, not everyone that uses Kwant has access to everything. Only administrators do, which means only administrators actually have access to Bob. So if you're just a company manager, you actually wouldn't even have access to Bob to pull that information. So that's a good question, whoever asked that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I think with that we can wrap up. And thanks so much everyone for joining us today. As mentioned before, if you'd like to see how Bob can work on your own project, just reach out to your customer success manager. We're happy to set up a personalized demo. And we really appreciate you spending time with us today. And we hope to see you again on our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time today. Talk soon.